Don Lemon had Terry Crews on his show on CNN, and it was pretty telling. Terry Crews, of course, posted something about how Black Lives Matter shouldn't turn into Black Lives Are Better. And while Crews was on Don Lemon's show, he brings up the fact that many black people are killed by other black people. That happens at a pretty frightening rate, in fact, a stunning rate, depending on the city, of course. Yet the BLM protesters don't seem to have the same passionate response to that problem as they do when a police officer kills a black person. Now, in this interview, first and foremost, the most obviously glaring admission on Don Lemon's part is the fact that he says Black Lives Matter is not an all-encompassing type of movement. So essentially, really, he just admitted that no, Black Lives Matter does not mean that all Black Lives matter. If you're killed by another citizen, that doesn't matter as much. We're not going to spend as much time protesting on your behalf. Now, if Don Lemon was smart, he could have at least said that all black lives lost are equally tragic, but when a police officer kills you, society doesn't seem to care as much, they're not held accountable, so on and so forth, even though that doesn't seem to be the case either. I mean, George Floyd is murdered, and the country grinds to an immediate halt, and the police officer is condemned by every public voice I've heard so far. The situation is horrible and tragic, but the response seems to suggest something positive. That people do care. That's a good thing. But people like Don Lemon don't want good news. They want the hysteria to continue because that's how real change can take place, supposedly. But unfortunately, we now know what the underbelly of BLM is, and we know just what type of change they want. It's all Marxist. Hell, Ilhan Omar just came out today saying that BLM can't stop at just police brutality. The entire economic and political system in the U.S. needs to be destroyed. Now, I'd go along with her in that, except that she references profit as being the problem and business. Okay, yeah, the looming, monstrous, grossly overpowered government and the Federal Reserve, they don't even get a shout-out, which again is very revealing about what their true intentions are. Race is simply being used as a front for Marxism. But anyway, back to Don Lemon. During this interview, he makes a mistake. He attempts to use this analogy to show how criticisms of BLM not really taking the deaths from citizen-on-citizen murder seriously, how these criticisms are faulty. He says, and I'm paraphrasing, it would be like someone saying deaths from cancer matter, but then someone says, well, what about deaths from HIV? Don Lemon's point being that the group is about cancer. They're concerned with cancer, but that doesn't mean they don't care about HIV. They're just focused on cancer. This is a bad analogy. The real disease analogy to BLM would be this. Someone makes a group saying lives lost to diseases matter, yet they only focus on one disease. Then when you point out this issue, they backpedal, and it becomes apparent that the entire thing is politically driven and ideologically motivated. And in reference to the BLM organization, it's outright motivated by Marxism. But the thing here is that Don Lemon just showcased how Black Lives Matter, the organization, doesn't live up to its own name. They don't think that all black lives lost are worthy of the same amount of attention. They're not interested in saving black lives. If they were, they would focus far more, frankly, on the neighborhoods in which one black person kills another black person. Happens to an extraordinary degree, far more than police killing black people. So if they cared about black lives, that would be the focus. But they're not interested in that. They're interested in bucking the system. And I'm all about bucking the system, but not in the same way that they want to buck it. That was a weird sentence, sorry. But the point is, anything that hurts their narrative will be avoided, even if it's black lives being lost. It depends on who's responsible for that life being lost. Because oddly enough, as much as I'm against the Black Lives Matter organization, I can firmly state unequivocally that I believe Black Lives Matter far more than the Black Lives Matter movement does itself. To them, they're just political pawns to advance their narrative. And I have to thank Don Lemon for making that crystal clear. But that's all for now. Please like, subscribe, share this video, and take it easy.